But for the moment, right now, I want to start out the program today with a discussion of health care and this ongoing debate. And Wayne Root is with us. Wayne Allyn Root is an American entrepreneur, television producer, best-selling author, runs a gambling site as well. Most significantly, in 2008, he was the vice presidential nominee for the Libertarian Party and is currently considered a frontrunner for the 2012 Libertarian presidential nomination. His website, Wayne Root, spelled the way it sounds, WayneRoot.com, and Root, R-O-O-T, digit4america.com. Wayne, welcome to the show.
Hey, Thom, and don't forget my new book, The Conscience of a Libertarian. It's out in bookstores all over the country, and it's got a big chapter on health care, a big chapter on the failures of government. I think those two go hand in hand.
Great promotion. Yeah, the failures of government. The ways that government competition... Now, let me get this straight. Does government competition put private enterprise out of business, or is government just completely incompetent?
Well, it's both in some ways. Number one, it is completely incompetent, and I'll give you 100 examples if you want. There's no time to do 100, but how about 5? But also, it can put private industry out of business, no matter how good you consider private industry.
Okay, the way that public libraries, where you can get a book for free, have put out of business our bookstores.
Say that again? The
way that public libraries have put our bookstores out of business?
I don't think public libraries have been any problem for private bookstores. No, I don't.
Okay, that's a public option.
Hey, Thom,
yeah.
If you allow the government to take massive losses, and no matter how big it is, you hand the bill or stick the bill to taxpayers, then government could keep health insurance prices artificially low for a few years till they put all private industry out of business, and then hike those prices right back up again.
Artificially low. Okay, well, let's get right to the essence of this, Wayne. In the Constitution, in the preamble of the Constitution, the founders talked about both the general welfare and the common defense. And the libertarian position, as I recall, is that the primary function of government should be to provide, basically protection, police and military.
Right.
Why would the federal government provide military?
Why would the federal government provide military? Well, I would think it would be because we could be overrun and murdered by our enemies all around the world.
No, because, why? Come on, Wayne. If you've got enough money, you can have your own private army.
Listen, I'm not an anarchist. I'm a person who believes in limited government.
I'm very serious. I'm absolutely deadly serious on this thing. The same thing with the police. Why would the government provide police?
Listen, you and I are debating as if I'm an anarchist, when in reality I'm a libertarian conservative. I want government. I just want it to be kept.
I know you want government to provide military and police. I get that. My point is that the reason why government provides military and police
to protect people's lives.
Is to distribute the risk over a broad base. The amount of money that it would cost to have a private security firm, let's say that you wanted to hire Blackwater, and somebody was breaking into your house, and Blackwater comes over to your house and shows up with 2 or 3 of their commandos, and they chase the guy down the street, and they capture him, and they put him in their private prison. That would cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? It costs thousands, tens of thousands of dollars when police actually protect an individual citizen. If there's a car wreck out there, the cost of all the emergency services, the fire trucks, the police, all that kind of stuff, it could be $1 million at the end of the day if 2 or 3 people are killed and there's a real, huge traffic pileup. The reason why the government provides police, fire, and military is because none of us can afford the individual risk, or very few of us could. Maybe Warren Buffett could, but the rest of us can't, and so we distribute that risk over a wide number of people. That's why it's an appropriate function of government. Now, tell me why we should have health insurance companies operating on a for-profit basis when the whole purpose of health insurance is to distribute risk that protects our lives the same way the military protects our lives from being murdered and the police protect our lives from being robbed.
Well, first of all, Thom, the one thing liberals never want to admit is we just can't afford it right now. It's impossible to add another $1 trillion or more to the American budget that is already at a point of unsustainable spending, unsustainable debt, and unsustainable deficit.
You're not answering my question, Wayne.
I'm not answering your question.
You're not even addressing the issue.
It doesn't matter.
And the president is saying that this is going to be revenue neutral. And frankly, if we just rolled back the Bush tax cuts, or even better, rolled back the Reagan tax cuts, you'd have a budget in balance.
Well, you'd also have socialism. You'd also have tax rates so high no one could afford to stay in business and pay for your health care.
Yeah, things were really terrible during the Eisenhower years and during the Nixon years and during the Johnson years.
I'm so sick of hearing that's the liberal lie. For your information, in those days, Thom, tax rates were in fact higher, but when you adjust for inflation, they were higher on revenue revenues far beyond a person like me who's upper middle class that makes $250,000, $300,000 a year. Tax rates were high on people that made millions of dollars a year. But now, because there aren't enough of them and government spending is so expensive, we've had to call rich people who make $250,000 that have a small business that employ 6 people. That's not rich, Tom. You can't tax them like they're Bernard Madoff.
So wait a minute, Wayne. Your argument is incoherent. You're saying on the one hand you're in favor of progressive taxation, that things actually worked really well during the Eisenhower, Nixon, Johnson, et cetera administrations when the top tax rate was 91%. That was fine. But now, because there's not as many rich people, which I would challenge, and they don't have as much money, which I would challenge, because there's more rich people and there's more money among the rich than there has been since 1928. That we can't do that, and that would be socialism. But back to the original point, Wayne. Why is it that you want to distribute risk? Why is it the libertarians want to distribute the risk of the cost of protecting us from terrorists and foreign governments, military, and protecting us from robbers and car accidents and drunk drivers, police, and protecting us from fire departments, and not protect us from cancer?
Well, first of all, you put words in my mouth completely. You got to take a breath there, Tom, and let me answer back once in a while, because I didn't say that I was for progressive taxes on the rich, but not on the upper middle class. I'm not for progressive taxes, period. Everyone should pay the same percentage. I'm for a flat tax for everyone in America, because I think you should be rewarded for your success, not punished every time you become more successful. And if you don't realize that the average small businessman is creating 75% of all the new jobs in America, and you're going to kill the goose that laid the
actually,
golden
it's down below 50% now,
no,
tragically,
no.
Wayne. But in the ideal,
75%.
No, the average, the small. Unfortunately, check your statistics, Wayne.
I know
the
my
small
facts.
Businesses in America have been wiped out. Back, 20, 30 years ago, you walked into a strip mall in America. It was all locally owned businesses. Now you can't find one. But that's not the point. We're talking about health care here.
What would you blame on that? What's your blame?
Pardon?
Your blame is Home Depot and Walmart? Is that what you're blaming?
My blame is that we're not enforcing the Sherman Antitrust Act. But that's, again, got nothing to do with health care.
No, but it does.
We have a minute left, Wayne. Tell me why we shouldn't distribute the risk of health care the way we distribute the risk of the military and the police.
Because
why not?
Government fails at everything it does. You don't want the post
So you don't want to have the
healthcare.
military and the police anymore being run by the socialist government?
Listen, I'm not in charge of running police, but I know health insurance is better at running health than the federal government is. And the problem,
how do you know that, Wayne?
The problem is lawyers, Tom, and nobody on the left wants to mention that because the Trial Association has bought and owns Barack Obama.
That's got nothing to do with this. How do you know that private health insurance does better when we're 35th in the world in infant mortality and 29th in the world in longevity, and all the countries with nationalized health care services are beating us?
They aren't beating us. That's a lie. You're going by one study by the United Nations that has us ranked 38th. But in actual health care, we're ranked number 1 by that same study, Tom. You're not mentioning that.
No, it's not in that study, Wayne.
Number 1 in performance, number 38 overall, because they don't like that our tax system isn't progressive enough. That's where
you can read about it over at Wayne's site, WayneRoot.com, rootforamerica.com, and your book, Wayne?
The Conscience of a Libertarian. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Wayne.
Bye-bye.
This is